It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. Well, here we are in week 4. You know, we're expecting around here. That's right, we have a due date of November 3rd. That's when a brand new spanking baby democracy is going to be born. By the time you hear this program, Bill Barr, the Attorney General, will either have been fired or will have resigned. Agent Orange continues to purge people he doesn't like from the Pentagon. He's got a new acting director of national security, some loyalist, as the press calls them. You know that needs Senate confirmation, right? The director of national security. But no, he's named his second consecutive acting director to get around that. And a whole list of people that he pardoned and commuted the sentences of white guys who are corrupt. That's the theme of the week. But it's not just the death of democracy, it's the birth of democracy. As I said, we're in week 4. We got to keep that going. Michael Bloomberg can kiss my white ass. The Nevada caucuses also will have a winner by the time you hear this episode. So I can't quite keep up. We'll try to catch up a little bit on these stories next week. I could talk about them with a little more certainty because, again, as I speak, things are up in the air on all of these. All right, but today, let's talk about television for a little bit. As a person who lives alone, I tend to use television just as a companion for noise in the room. Yeah, no, more than that, I have to confess. I do turn on very familiar shows, like shows from my youth, or, Seinfeld, or shows that I'm very familiar with the characters, and I think there's a psychological thing going on where you have a friend over. Local newscasts really put a lot of stock in that. They want you to become so familiar that you're inviting a friend into your living room. Any sort of personality show, the late night talk shows, they want to engender that kind of familiarity. So I've fallen prey to that. Again, I'm a person who lives alone, and during the downtimes, I'm usually working. I'm doing some sort of something or other. I'm recording this podcast, or I'm writing, or I'm working on other things. But when I do have downtime, I'm just sitting and having a sandwich. I'll flip around. I'll do it. And again, usually land on something comfortable and safe and familiar. That's a confession. That is not something I'm advocating. I think there's more harm than good that probably comes from this. It's like a drug that pacifies you, that puts you out, puts you in a comfortable spot, but in the long run, probably not doing you much good, and maybe doing a lot of harm. So there's my television confession. Something else about television. When I was a young man coming up, all of the cool people would never admit to watching television. They would go so far as to say right out loud they couldn't wait to tell you, "Oh, I don't watch television." Or even better, "I don't own a television." Now, these many years later, these same cool people are the first ones to admit that they're binging on Hulu or Netflix or any of the other streaming services. They don't seem to realize that it's the same thing or even worse. There was a number recently. What was that? I wonder if I made a note of that. Let me see. I hope I did. I'm checking to see yeah, here it is. According to Wired.com, there were 646,152 things to watch on TV last year. And of course, that's including the networks, all the cable stations, and of course, streaming and streaming video services. So 646,152 things to watch. I missed most of them. And here's what I don't get. I honestly don't understand. You know, we talk about the alien, the proverbial alien who comes down and you try to explain life on Earth to them. Well, quite often I feel like the alien. Please explain this to me. How in the world are people watching so much television? And by television, again, I'm using the umbrella term to include all the streaming services, all that time on a screen. And that's not even to mention all the time we spend on screens scrolling through social media and playing games, which people also do, and also which I do not understand. I'm the alien. Now, even the smart media, for example, Terry Gross, what's her show on NPR? What's it? Fresh Air. Blank there for a second. Fresh Air with Terry Gross. And she has a frequent guest and sometimes fill-in host, Bean Cooley, I think is his name. Oh, boy, I forgot. Yeah, see, when you have to remember things on the spot. See, this is why I edit my show. I confess, I edit my show. I take out the ums and the uhs and the ers and all the names I forgot. His website is called TV Worth Watching. So here, let's just punch that up real quick and see if I can find his name. David Bean Cooley, I think it is. Let's see if I'm right. I should just trust myself. TV Worth Watching. Yeah, David Bean Cooley, I got it. All right, so with that little sidetrack. Oh, Sling Television is advertised right on the front page of TV Worth Watching, I see. Well, I find this to be an oxymoron. It's an oxymoronic term, TV Worth Watching. Because even I, who've confessed to watching television, none of it's actually worth watching. There's not one single thing that is worthwhile compared to what I could be doing. Now, there's pretty good stuff. PBS has some pretty decent documentaries. Frontline is a great series. I really watch Frontline. I check that out. I won't get in right now, too, because we've talked about it many times, and we will again. I won't get too deeply into the news media. Of course, I have definite thoughts about all of that, and we've talked about it often on this program and others. But, I watch PBS NewsHour. I understand that they're corporate-driven. I understand that. I understand that going in. I don't watch Democracy Now! I listen to Democracy Now! You don't really get much more by watching. You're just mostly seeing talking heads. You don't need that. And then you're distracted by the weird tie the guy is wearing or the weird hair that the woman has or there's some problem. There's some distraction from the content. So it's always better to listen than watch. So I listen to Democracy Now! So I definitely take in media. I take in a lot of media. That's not what I'm saying. But the whole idea of watching and especially binging on stories, that's the big thing. Everything's got to be a story. We have to have a story. We're incapable of taking in information unless it's kind of enveloped into some dramatic story. Is this how we've devolved? There's nothing wrong with a good story. There's nothing wrong with a good film or a good movie. That's not what I'm saying. But is it a requirement 100% of the time that we can't take in information unless it's wrapped in some dramatic story? And getting back to things I don't understand, I will never, as long as I live, understand how violence is entertaining. When podcasts first started to really rise in people's consciousness and they started subscribing and podcasting became a thing, one of the first genres that really took off was true crime and murders. I am the alien asking you, Earthlings, tell me, Earthlings, please explain to me why you want to hear true crime stories. Why are you fascinated by murder and mayhem? Why is this entertaining to you? And of course, psychologists tell us, God forbid, don't want to argue with psychologists. There's certainly hard science right there. Oh, that we're fascinated and entertained by violence and mayhem, and it actually helps us in some way. It releases our natural tendencies toward violence, and it channels it into something healthier, and it actually keeps us from acting out in the real world. I'm the guy who loves research and science, and especially the social sciences, and I love to hear information that helps us know more about ourselves. I'm the last person to go, oh, those eggheads, they don't know what they're talking about. But here, I fall into that category, I confess. I don't trust them at all. I don't trust psychologists when they tell us these things. There's something very wrong going on, and I do not understand. I am the alien. Why? Why? Please, can we stop? Can we get beyond this? Can we evolve past the fascination with violence? I once, I don't know, a year or two ago, here's another confession, okay? I'm full of confessions today. I ordered something on Amazon, which does not make me happy. I haven't done it for a long, long time now. I'm off Amazon. But a couple years ago, I ordered something on Amazon, and I got tricked. I got hoodwinked by Amazon. Jeff Bezos knew what he was doing with me, because this was when Prime was relatively new. Amazon Prime, which is I think you know what that service is. You get free delivery, and you get extra good deals, and you get video and audio, and you get all the sorts of stuff when you become a Prime member of Amazon. So I ordered something. It was a birthday present for my son, something like that. And there was this offer. Well, you can get the delivery free, become a Prime member, and I guess I punched the wrong buttons, because what I did was I accidentally became a Prime member. Literally. I didn't know what I was punching. And all of a sudden I realized a week or two later, I'm a member of, I think it was when I got the bill. It's like $100. It's like, holy hell, I'm a Prime member now. So my first thought was, dealing with anything online where there are no more humans in the world. This happens in a lot of things, especially in media services. Your entire interface is with buttons and clicking and scrolling and swiping, and there's no human to be found. So I thought, okay, well, how do I cancel this? Is there any way to get out of this? And then I thought, well, you know what? I've already spent the money. I've got this for a year. I'll just have it. What the hell? Who cares? And maybe people keep talking about all the great series on Amazon Prime. And at the time, I don't know if it's still on. This was a couple of years ago. There was a show called, everybody knows it but me, The Amazing Mrs. Maisel or something. Again, something else I have to look up. I have no memory. I have no memory for things I disdain. My brain just jettisons things that I don't care about. Let's see. I'm looking it up, and I think it's The Marvelous. I know it's that much. The Marvelous. Mrs. Maisel. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You knew that, of course. I had to look it up. Anyway, I bring that up because it was the hottest thing going. Everybody was talking about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, how it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, okay, I'll watch it. And I watched. In fact, again, another confession. This is my time in the confessional. I didn't binge the whole series, but I would watch a couple 3-4 episodes in a row, and then the next night watch another couple 3-4 episodes in a row. So I did kind of binge watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And I thought, well, okay, this is the hottest thing in America. It was, it was fine, I suppose, for what it is. Just kind of dopey, affected entertainment to waste my time, to kind of entertain me for a little while. But worth watching, to get back to David B. and Cooley's TV worth watching, no such thing. It wasn't worth watching. It wasn't worth my time. When it was over, I thought, man, what did I just do? How many hours did I just waste? And this is the biggest thing going. Everybody was talking about it, and it was winning awards. And it's, I don't get it. I'm not totally averse to film and television. You know, I love classic movies. I love On the Waterfront. I don't know, that first one that just popped into my head. I've kind of given up on contemporary movies. The most recent Academy Award winner looked pretty good. I thought, well, maybe I'll go see that. But this Marvelous Mrs. Maisel experience is not unique with me. I find I've had it several times on several occasions that, okay, well, I'm the alien. I don't understand people at all anymore. I am the alien. Take me away. Take me back to my home. Somebody come and get me. I will never understand. The first time I had this experience was a few years ago. Many years ago. I was a much younger person. I'm flipping around late at night because I'm just kind of trying to veg out. Okay, what's the least objectionable viewing I can find? And so I come across this, whatever it was. I didn't know what it was. I'm flipping channels. And it's really, really bad acting. And women in skimpy bathing suits. And I thought, okay, well, and I stayed on it because I found it really fascinating and entertaining in that really Plan 9 from outer space kind of way. The writing is horrible. The acting is horrible. Everything about this is horrible to the point of it being fascinating and weird and, you know, the so bad it's good kind of thing. We've all experienced that, right? I'm sure you have. So I'm watching this for a while. It's so bad it's good. I'm laughing and I'm having a good time. And then they go to a commercial and they toss out their little, logo or something or theme song. And I realize what I've been watching for the last 15 minutes was Baywatch. The original Baywatch with Pamela Anderson. You remember this if you're old enough? I think they had a remake recently, and they made a movie a couple of years ago. But it was the original Baywatch, and which I had never seen. I'd only heard about. You couldn't help but hear about it because, you know, it was just everywhere. It was so. That was really striking to me. Oh my God, I've been watching Baywatch. That's what Baywatch is? That's what the whole country is obsessed with? This is the biggest hit on television? That was my first experience of being an alien. Even the good stuff, even the smart stuff. On a rare occasion, you can find a good... I saw a pretty decent segment on 60 Minutes recently, the long-running CBS News program. Now, I didn't learn much because 60 Minutes doesn't often break news. It kind of tells stories that if you're knowledgeable at all about the news, you probably already know. 60 Minutes is a great show for people on a Sunday evening who don't really are not heavily into the news. And it's a good way for them to kind of catch up on things. And so this was one of those segments. And I thought it was pretty well done. And I actually did learn one or two things. And it kind of recapped it in a way that I thought, okay, these are good reminders to have. And encapsulated it in a very nice little segment. So every once in a while, you're going to find it. But it's kind of akin to scrolling your social feed. You're going to go through 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 total wastes of time. And then you'll scroll onto an article. Oh, that's pretty good. Every once in a while I'm engaging with media, I will come across something that's really interesting, really moving, really inspiring, and, high quality. Whether it be through a narrative story on a television show or a movie, or through a documentary or a news piece, or even a reality show where they like to get dramatic with the contestants and give us their backstory and, they were raised by their grandmother and, grew up in the projects and had a very tough life and and they don't feel loved and supported. They don't feel safe. But now here in this television studio, now they have, and sometimes it can get really, I saw one, it was genuinely kind of beautiful. And then, okay, so these are all the good things you can find. Again, 1 out of 50 or 50,000 hits, you're going to get something like that. All right, so it exists. But here's the thing. Even the ones that are high quality are moving, informative in every way, just nothing but good things you can say about them. Even the very best of those segments, news segments or television shows or movies, not one of them ever once will challenge the assumptions of the power brokers. No, they might nibble around the fringes, but never will they really, really challenge the assumptions that we're all supposed to make. And you guessed it, it comes back to money. It always comes back to money. Some great neighborhood activist has put together a Little League baseball organization in his neighborhood, and it's doing wonders for the kids, it's doing wonders for the neighbors, but it's all under the umbrella. We have to accept that, we have to get sponsors and businesses on board to buy the kids their uniforms, and it never, ever questions the assumptions of the water we swim in. And that water, of course, being money, being capitalism, being profit. It's never questioned seriously. Never. The most radical politicians who are labeled as communists and socialists never even come close to being actual communists or actual socialists or actual anarchists. There are so many possibilities beyond what we are being presented in any media we're going to see. There are just things that are taboo, especially when it comes to money. There are other taboo subjects too, like sex and religion, where you can only go so far. And those who do push the envelope as far as they're allowed are held up as heroes from the alternative communities, those on the left, those that are more free thinkers. We do appreciate, and we should appreciate, those who push the envelope. But we should also acknowledge that if they're going to be in media, especially any kind of national media, any kind of sponsored media, they will only be allowed to go so far, and they're not going to go any further. So you'll hear very well-meaning stories and opinions from thoughtful people. I saw recently on PBS a Nobel Prize-winning economist. And she had all the right ideas. She seemed to be very concerned and very compassionate, very empathetic around the ideas of poverty. And she seemed to genuinely care. And so she buried herself in the research and made a very compelling case for the kind of economics we should have that would best serve people stricken with poverty. And it was great. But she's an economist. By very definition, she accepts the role of money as the central force. So when I try to advocate for a world without money, I am outside the boundary of acceptable discourse. Noam Chomsky once was asked about why he's never ever asked to be a guest on any of the news programs, because he isn't. He said, well, I used to be, and he talked about this very thing. He said there's a parameter in which you must stay. And if you step outside of that parameter, it's not so much that they didn't want to hear it. They literally couldn't understand it. In order for me to express my ideas in corporate media, even if they let me on, which, like I said, occasionally they did. But he said, I couldn't get my point across in a little 10 or 20 second answer, which is what they want, which is what they expect, which is what they demand. 30 seconds is a really long answer. 1 minute? Are you kidding? 60 seconds? It's not going to happen. So he was unable to speak in the accepted shorthand. There are parameters in which you must fit. And to go outside those parameters, Chomsky explained, required him to explain, to teach to go into this long discourse about what he's talking about because they just, like a dog cocking their heads, they literally didn't understand. Like they're talking two different languages. That's what happens when you go beyond the accepted premises. And so media today, again, whether it's news media, whether it's narrative of television shows or movies, they can push all your buttons. They can be moving in the right direction. And I'm assuming right now, for the sake of this conversation, I'm assuming that you're all generally lefty, liberal. That's me. That's my audience. So, okay, that's what I'm assuming for the moment. They might really take you there. They might hit all your buttons. The corporation is evil, things like Avatar, the kind of a groundbreaking movie. And that's often the case, and conservatives get upset about that. Oh, yes, the corporations are always evil. Well, yeah, because they are, just by their very nature. But the current crop for my whole lifetime and your whole lifetime has been up to this point within those parameters. And we've been conditioned to believe that we've seen the extremes. Again, let's keep it on one side. I don't want to go to the right-wing extreme of fascism and Nazis and all of that. We see plenty of that. But on the liberal left extreme, it's not that it's not allowed. Well, it's not allowed. But you don't have to put up a stop sign. It's just understood by everyone. It's become the water we swim in. Let's go back to Plato's cave for a minute. You know Plato's cave, right? Everybody knows this little allegory. Everybody lives in this cave, and they understand it to be the entire world. And then one prisoner escapes, sees the real world outside of the cave, and comes back and tries to explain this to his friends, and they won't accept it. He's now the alien. He's the odd man out. He is excoriated not just by the prison guards, but also by the prisoners themselves. And that's the world we're living in. And I'm wondering if you ever share this experience, where there are things about the world that you literally feel like an alien who just landed. I cannot understand how people are entertained by violence. I cannot understand how people watch and consume really, really crappy media, movies, television, whatever. I feel like we've been hypnotized, and that we're all, every move of every day in our lives is a post-hypnotic suggestion. And to wake us up from that hypnosis, I think we got to put down our phones. I think we've got to turn off the televisions. And by that, again, the umbrella term, television, the computer or the device, wherever you're watching your television, you know what I mean? We got to turn them off. We got to look each other in the eyes, and we have to start living life and sharing thoughts and ideas and expressing ourselves and relating to each other. All right, I don't know. There you go. I love you. Find this and every episode of The Log at charlesburcell.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, thanks to our flagship station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Theme music by Peter Donalds. Stay right here because Charles Burcell Presents is next in your queue and starts right now.